agenda for today, what I'd like to talk to you about. What we'll do is we'll recap a little bit in terms of the methodology that we undertook for the research. We'll recap very, very briefly the qualitative findings. There's a whole research report on this, but we'll just, for the purposes of today, just take you through that at a high level. Then we'll take you through the quantitative findings, and that includes satisfaction with change management at RMIT, managing change, so what are the key areas of importance that we found, the RMIT's performance around each of these key areas in managing change, the priority areas for RMIT to focus on, the awareness of the initiatives and change, and then just what we'll do is we'll take you through a summary of each of those key areas of change and what we really need to do to drive engagement and satisfaction with how change is implemented. I think I should also mention that there is a full report, as I mentioned, for the qualitative findings and the quantitative findings. So if you have further questions about more detail, these are available. So quickly, as Tabitha mentioned, I just wanted to touch up on the background and as to why this research was really commissioned, and that was because in 2017 there was a study conducted by RMIT that really, I think, raised some issues around how change is perceived within RMIT by staff, and really, I guess some of the issues that came up were the capability and delivery around change communications and cross-unit collaboration. So this raised some issues that I think it was felt we needed to delve further into to really understand what was going on and how we could improve. So for the purpose of this research project, the overarching objective really was to explore and establish and track RMIT stakeholder attitudes, interpretation and experience around how RMIT manages change, but not only understand how we're performing, but also get a read on potentially how we can affect and positively influence perceptions of change over time, and that is really to dig down into how we implement that change. So in terms of the structure of the research project, we had an initial planning workshop with Tabitha and her team. Then we undertook, as Tabitha mentioned, the qualitative focus group. So that was 12 focus groups with RMIT staff over a period of a few weeks. Those workshops, I think, contained about 10 to 12 participants each, so very highly engaged participants, had a lot to say, and we got a lot out of them for the quantitative survey, which we undertook next. So the quantitative survey, I'll talk a little bit more in detail, but it had about 332 online surveys with RMIT staff across a whole range of different areas, also including Vietnam as well. But we'll take you through that in a little detail. So in terms of the survey, it was undertaken from the 3rd of April to the 8th of May this year, 2019. Welcome. So in terms of the various cohorts that undertook the survey, we had various roles, including professional staff, academic, vocational staff. The countries included Australia, Vietnam and Europe. We had a very small contingent of 2 people from Europe taking the survey, and tenure. So we really got a relatively good spread of tenure right the way through from 2 years or less, right the way up to 10 years or longer. So a pretty decent spread there, as you can see. So the next thing I wanted to do was really just recap the overall findings from the qualitative research. What we wanted to do was provide a best practice set of guidelines that we could use as sort of a framework with which we could present the results back, and also understand what the key things that RMIT staff are coming up with. So in terms of what are the key issues around implementation of change that we can take forward and really quantitatively understand from the survey. So the recommendations that we covered were really delivered in 3 areas. So that was around initiate, implement, and embed. And throughout that, we also touch on communication, which is really weaved its way through all 3 of those stages, and is highly important. So, again, I said this was going to be very short and sharp in terms of the qualitative findings, and it is. There's a lot more detail in the final report. But really, these are the key themes that came up very, very strongly from staff internally through the workshops. So these are the key things that came up over and over again that were potentially issues, or that were potentially things that they really wanted to see happen when it came to implementing change. So around initiate, it was creating a comprehensive plan for all stages of change, including a case for change, clear vision, engagement approach, and impact assessment on cohorts. So they want to feel that this is happening, and they want to feel confident that it's happening well. Around engagement, so it's engagement at all levels, not just senior management, but feeling that at each level within the organisation, people feel like they know what's going on, and that they feel like they're being regularly updated. Around communicating the vision, so not just communicating what's happening, but why it's happening. What does this mean for the overall organisation? What's the future direction? To give some logical explanation as to why we're going through this process, really. Around implementing, it was really ensuring representation from subject matter experts to co-design the solution. So that was important, that we feel like we're using and accessing the right experts, and we're doing this in the right way. And that's really around confidence that this is happening in the right way. Around training, so providing training support and channels for two-way feedback. So rather than being just communicated to about what's happening, at least providing a channel or an avenue for people to be able to feel like they're being heard as this project is being taken, so that they feel that they're part of the process, and not that just that this is happening to them. Finally, facilitating that smooth transition or interface with existing systems and clear team and role transition. So this transitional point is a big thing for them, feeling like it's happening in a very smooth way, and that the transition is also happening with them in mind. And we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. The final one here, in terms of the 3 areas, was the embedding stage. And this was very important in that this, it wasn't just implementing and then moving on. It was, how does this get embedded every day, working as usual processes. So, providing ongoing training and support, and communicating clearly with key users of the new systems and processes. So making sure, sort of getting a feedback loop going, is this working? What's not working? What's working well? And ironing out those kinks as we move forward. And that providing that ongoing feedback and reward and recognise people who do adopt. So really, I guess, making examples of people who are adopting well, understanding why they're adopting these processes and new systems well, so we can roll that out to everyone else as well. And measuring the outcomes, so reviewing and reporting on achievements, continuously improving processes and service delivery. So again, I just wanted to reiterate that this embedding and ongoing sort of monitoring and working out ways to improve was just as important as the initial implementation stage as well. In terms of communication, this is really key at all stages. As I said, this threads its way throughout the whole process. So a lot of the time a lot of the work that we do with clients is not just about making sure that we have a really effective, smooth transition project, but it's about communicating back what's happening, giving people the confidence that this process is being undertaken as best as it can, and again with them in mind. So that communication process, two-way channel process backwards and forwards is really, really crucial. So based on the findings that we received from the qualitative process from the 12 focus groups, we took out the key themes and created some statements that we could use to quantify how we're going really for each of these core areas. And I'll go through, you can see each of the statements, there's 27 of them, so we won't go through each of them, but they're within key areas of focus. So we use those statements, as I said, to do some analysis to understand which are most important, which are less important, and also how we perform over time. So the quantitative findings. So the first area that I wanted to talk about is satisfaction with change management at RMIT. How do we currently fare when it comes to change management? So overall sentiment around how change is affecting staff, that's probably an important point to make. The overall sentiment around that right now is quite poor. So we'll talk about that in a bit more detail. But that also increases, so the sentiment gets worse as tenure increases as well. So a bit of detail on that. So that first bar chart that you can see at the top, from left to right is the rating scale on satisfaction with changes affecting staff. So red, 0 to 1, right the way through to dark green, which is 9 to 10. So you can see if we take that 7 to 10, we have 27% of people rating it as good to excellent. So that's pretty low, that's very low. We have a large chunk of people who are pretty neutral as well. So we would hope that with a mean score of 4.5 out of 10, we would be able to improve, shift the data as well. For those of you who can see here in the table below, we've also split it out by key cohorts. So the first cohort we have is around role. So we have professionals and academics. So we can see that the sentiment towards the satisfaction with changes affecting staff amongst professionals is slightly higher. It's 31%, still not great, but it's higher than the average, and it's a fair bit lower for academics at 18%. So that's a key split that we saw that was quite different. In terms of Australia versus Vietnam, Australia is at 23% compared to 43% in Vietnam. So again, big difference there in terms of perceptions of change affecting staff. One of the, probably, as I mentioned before, one of the biggest differences that we saw was across tenure. So those who have been in the job for less than a year, 48%, I think it's 48%, 46%, sorry, 46% feel satisfied with change. You can see that drop right off as you go through our tenure, down to 21% in 10 years or longer. So there's a bit of work to be done in terms of bringing people who have been here for a fair amount of time along for the journey. So what we also found is there is a strong correlation between satisfaction with how change is managed at RMIT and also satisfaction in people's roles, in their current roles. We can see that by the chart that we've produced here. And really what we're saying here is there is some sort of relationship between how people feel change affects them and their satisfaction in their role. We'd like to see and we'd be looking out for if we can shift the dial in terms of satisfaction, how does that change their perception of the role, how happy they are at work essentially. So the next area that we wanted to discuss was managing change. So what are these key areas of importance that we looked at? Again, as I mentioned, there's 27 statements that we put into the survey, so we won't go through them all one by one, but they all were used to really, I guess, diagnose and understand what are the key elements of change that are important, where are we doing well, where aren't we doing so well, and what do we need to change, essentially, to shift satisfaction up. So we did some factor analysis to understand how each of these 27 elements naturally group together. And how they group together we essentially came up with 6 core areas of living. So the first one is the implementation and the impact of change. The second one is engagement and consultation. Third, reflection and learning, communication, training and support. And then the last one, which is all by itself in terms of only having one statement, was direct manager engagement. That one came out as different enough to all of the other statements to have its own, its own group. We felt that was clearly by itself. It's clearly an important area. It's where a lot of people, as you'll see through our deck, get a lot of their information. There's a trusted source of information as well. So it needs to be by itself in terms of isolating. So we undertook some driver analysis then to understand which of these core areas or factors the priority areas that we need to look at first. We feel that all of these 6 areas are important. We're not saying some are important, some are not important. They're all important. We just wanted to understand which are the ones that are really driving satisfaction. If we don't get right, we're not going to get a good satisfaction score no matter what we do. So we wanted to understand that, and we did some driver analysis around that. And really what we're seeing here is the contribution to your satisfaction score. So we can see in this table here, we can see implementation and impact contributing 25% overall to satisfaction. Engagement and consultation, 23%, and so forth, right the way down to direct manager engagement, 5%. So, again, I want to make it clear that direct manager engagement is still very, very important, but only concentrating on that is going to give you a 5% contribution score to satisfaction. We really need to get all of these performing well to see satisfaction go up. So managing change, what we wanted to do was look at RMIT's performance overall and how RMIT is currently performing against each of the driver areas of satisfaction. So this is a pretty telling slide. It's one of probably one of the most important slides to look at in our pack, and we can see that in order of importance, we can see the ones that we want to really get right are the ones that are performing lowest at the moment. So implementation and impact, 25% satisfaction, we get a mean score of 3.32 out of 10. So we feel that, and as you can see, as we're going down in terms of areas of priority, scores go up right the way through to direct manager engagement, which is 5.62, which is still not fantastic as a mean score out of 10, but it's the best performing. So that in itself just tells an overall picture that perhaps there's some opportunity there to really start prioritising some of these areas. So just looking at this in a different way and looking at the vertical axis here, which is RMIT's performance over time, performance, and then the horizontal axis is the drivers of satisfaction. So this area here, this bottom right-hand corner, is the key areas that we really need to start looking at, which is engagement and consultation, reflection and learning, implementation and impact. So it just gives you a good sense of where we're at in terms of importance relative to performance over time. So what we wanted to do now is dig a little bit further into the key areas that we need to improve for satisfaction across those key factors. So let's drill down now into implementation and impact drivers. So there's clearly 3 key areas here that we wanted to call out, which is above So those in red are above importance but below performance improvement. And through each of these slides we can see that clearly, there's some opportunity here to improve our scores. So the smooth transition between existing and new systems, RMIT adequately piloting change prior to full rollout, and the third one is taking the emotional impact of internal change on employees into account. That was a big one that came up. So they're the three areas within the top driver that we really need to concentrate on. Around engagement and consultation, it is, again, these are the top two most important areas driving this, other ones that are underperforming at the moment. So the first one is when changes are being planned or designed, the appropriate people are included and involved. So that's underperforming. The next one is I feel confident that my feedback is heard and will be taken into account for action. So again, those are the two key areas we need to get right for engagement and consultation as a driver to improve. The third one is reflection and learning. So both of these are currently underperforming. So the first one is outcomes of change reviewed against the aims of the project. And the second one is learnings from the past change projects are used to inform planning future changes. So again, those two are the key things we need to concentrate on to bump up reflection and learning. Communication is performing relatively better, as you saw, than other change management areas. But again, there's room for improvement here. The top three communication drivers are underperforming slightly. So when change occurs at RMIT, I'm usually clear as to how this will benefit me. Underperforming. Information on change occurring at the university is easily accessible. And the third one, when I'm told about the change, when I'm told about the change, typically meets my expectations, or what I'm told about the change, So they're the three key areas that we really need to concentrate on. So what's the preferred form of communication? And then this goes right the way back to that, one of those key drivers, which is my manager. So it seems to be the most effective way of communicating change directly to them. It's more about equipping the manager with the right information, having taken into account all the factors that we know are important in driving satisfaction. So really equipping those managers with the right information and to communicate that to their staff. Quickest and definitely the quickest channel to get to each of the staff members. So training and support and direct manager engagement less likely to drive overall satisfaction, but there's room to strengthen performance here as well. With training and support drivers, again, the top drivers here are underperforming overall. So the information and training I receive empowers me to adopt the change to my role. The second one here is training is provided at appropriate times. So again, something to consider in terms of how we implement training. So only one statement around the direct manager engagement factor, but we just wanted to call out what this actually encompasses. So the statement that we had was, my line manager has conversations with me and my team about the changes that are happening. So we're really wanting to, empower managers to have those active or proactive conversations to keep the conversation going. A good way also to allow staff to have those two-way conversations as well, that they say is very important. So we also just undertook a bit of work to understand awareness of the key initiatives of change going on. So one of these was the areas of focus. So we wanted to know how familiar staff are currently, or were at that stage, with areas of focus. So we had around 23% who say they know a lot about it, so very familiar. Then we had 52% who know a little bit about it. So just getting a gauge on how familiar people are with that. Of those who know something about areas of focus, we had 30% of those who clearly understand how the areas of focus relates to RMIT strategy, ready for life, and work. 51% say they somewhat understand that, and then there's a lack of clarity for others, 20%. So there's a lot of opportunity there to shift the dial in terms of familiarity with areas of focus. So do staff know about Project Pi? We obviously undertook this as sort of a baseline metric to understand familiarity. So around 5% who said they know a lot about it, 41% who know a little bit about it, and then 17% who have heard of it but don't really know anything about it. So this one was interesting, the donut chart we have here, the perceptions as whether it's a worthwhile initiative. We had 58% who said yes. This is of people who know something about it. We have probably about 25% or just under 25% who said no. Then we have a whole bunch of people who are neutral on the idea at the moment. So again, opportunity there to shift the dial in terms of whether, how worthwhile people feel this is as an opportunity. So we just wanted to really summarise the key takeouts here across each of these key factors or areas of change that we feel are very important in driving positive satisfaction with change. So around implementation and impact, it's really around ensuring that there's a smooth transition between existing and new roles. Adequately piloting change prior to full rollout is important, and taking the emotional impact of the change into account, so people feel like it's not just a process-driven approach, it's also a human and people-driven approach as well. Around engagement and consultation, including and involving the appropriate people when changes are being planned, and ensuring feedback is heard and taken into account and action. So again, right the way throughout all 6 of these areas, communication, open feedback loop is really important, and that's what they've been saying to us right the way throughout the project. In terms of reflecting and learning, it's reviewing the outcomes of change against the aims of the project. So all of this iterative approach, that feeling that this is constantly taking a step back, having a look where we're at, making logical progress as we move forward, rather than starting from the start and then just rolling out without looking at where we're going. Use of learnings from past projects to inform planning for future changes. Again, a lot of the qualitative work that we did had anecdotes of previous change, whether that be within RMIT or previous roles with other organisations. And a lot of the learnings from those, and I wish we had done this, I wish we had done that. If people feel like that's been listened to and heard and implemented, then they're a lot happier with the process, a lot more willing to go along with the process. As I said, communication weaves right the way throughout this, but it's really about clearly communicating how the change will benefit the university, communicating the vision, and making that communication easily accessible. And as we said, that direct line manager is a clear person that they'll go to. Around training and support, so it's empowering staff to adopt the change and through their own role, through informed information and training. So giving people the tools they need and the knowledge they need to know how to implement the change and how to manage their roles within the change as well. And also providing training at the appropriate times. And finally, again, that direct manager engagement, crucial, and really, again, it's just a key opportunity to communicate change through a human person-to-person contact rather than EDMs, emails, newsletters, etc. So that's really it. Thank you very much.
what's interesting to me about these results is a lot of it is sort of basic, common sense stuff. I mean, we've all heard these things before, but there's a difference, I think, between you know what you're supposed to do, and I liked really how this report was able to focus on what's really important locally for our people at RMIT, which focuses at change planning and what we're going to deliver around what's really important. So I've actually taken a lot out of these reports over the months that I've had it and put them into place. But I'd like to open up just with some questions from anyone in the audience about the research or about, Dan.
Sorry, I've done this before. Can you hear me? Do it as well? Good luck. Can you hear me? Firstly, thank you very much. I completely agree with that. There's great research, great insights that you're sharing, and again, really reinforces best practice, organisational change in the wider workplace. So well done. One of my questions that is in regards to the sampling and data you put together, and it's from the lens of where the participants sit in the hierarchy. The reason I'm asking is because the way people experience change differs in an organisation depending on what their role is. So for example, executive sponsor leader, I've had this before, experiences change differently as opposed to a team member and so on and so forth. So on one end you're looking at strategy, you're trying to push the why, the governance and drive it, and on the other end you're receiving it and you're implementing it. I'm just curious if you could share any insights at all in those numbers with your samples in terms of how many people in those groups were line managers, how many were team members, how many people were senior managers, and above.
In terms of Sam, did you have a sense of the various level management in that?
There's a bit of a spread, so it was a random sample. It went out to a random selection of all the staff and has also circulated open type survey amongst people who are more at that senior level. So it was probably a smaller sample in terms of the senior roles. I'll have to go back and find that.
What we can do is have a look at the sample sizes for each cohort. Perhaps we could group some more senior stuff with
That would be really beneficial because when we're implementing change, we always try to look for commonality and characteristics because we want to work smarter or harder. And generally we do that by the organisation layers. So you have very senior leaders, the next level down, and so on, eventually to line manager level and such on. So if we could get some insights from each of the groups, for example, team members really want to get into the line managers, no surprise, as opposed to middle city managers who really prefer to hear from leadership rather than getting communications. If we get those insights, that will really help us design what the solutions are to all that.
Absolutely, yeah. One of the other things that we can do as well is, if we don't have, the biggest consideration there is getting enough sample to be relatively representative for each of those cohorts. If we don't, perhaps the next way we can do some combined sample and see if we can pull it out for you.
Thank you.
Yes, Alex. Did you have a question?
That one needs to be turned off.
So my question just relates to as you were going through the insights.
Here we go. As you go through all of the insights, and you take a look at other industries and other institutions like ours, on the relativity, what were some of your own reflections?
I think one of the, if we're talking about completely different industries, one of the key issues that affects a university in general is the difference between cohorts of staff. You've got a very wide-ranging set of cohorts of staff. In particular, what we saw was academics versus the professional staff. So straight away, it felt to us, and particularly from the qualitative process we went through, that a lot of thought needs to be taken into how we engage with very different cohorts within the university. Some of the clients that we have in a more commercial space, there's less work that needs to be done there. It's a bit more of a uniform approach. That was probably the biggest thing that came up. And I think that probably most universities or educational institutions have similar issues.
Yeah, I think that would resonate. In the numbers and the findings, was there anything particularly surprising in them?
Not from having gone, I think that if we hadn't gone through the qualitative process, I think the level of satisfaction with change in general, I would have found surprising as to how low it is. Having gone through the qualitative process and understood the various complexity, the complexity of the issues, the complexity of staff and their roles, I would have found that surprising if I hadn't gone through that process. But because it is quite low, and there are a number of staff who I think have had some varying degrees of experience as well, from quite bad, quite poor to okay.
Yeah.
So,
I don't have a question, I just wanted to use the microphone. No, I do have a question. I thought the research was good. I thought what you outlined in terms of best practice and towards the start when you were talking about the qualitative outcome, I don't think there's a lot new in there. I think what was probably useful for us is where you've identified those areas where high importance and low satisfaction. But I'm wondering if in the qualitative work that you did you get any information as to why we're not doing it now? Like what's stopping us? The things in terms of best practice would be well known to every change practitioner in the room. Something stopping us from doing what we know is best practice. I'm wondering if we have any idea what that is.
I think that is a one of the key challenges. Again, I think part of it comes down to the complexity of the organisation. I think that being so big, I think that there was a sense that it's a very complex process, and that it in itself creates a big issue. I don't know whether you had any additional
I
thoughts.
think it really, there was examples of when it was being implemented and done really well. So we did have stories of examples like things around maths and teachers and people felt really well informed, and that's where those points come out around communication. They came out of really good examples of times when it was done well, but there was just other examples, whether it was back in the past and people hang on to that, or new examples that just weren't executed as well, maybe a lack of communication. So that was really varied experiences, and what we found is that there was just no consistency in how people experience change. So it's sometimes yes, the best practice is there, but it's just finding that consistency and making sure that that is the case for every change project.
And one question in the back.
It was more about, for me, like with the results, it's a little bit following on from what was from the first question. Who the people that were answering? I answered this survey, and I know a lot about Project Pi, and I'm informed about this because I worked on comms. It would be interesting to see what considerations you make, the types of people that are answering these questions, and also, for want of a better phrase, the psychological state of the people that are answering at the time, because there's types of people that want to answer these things and want to get involved, and also the people that want to use them as a forum to have a massive whinge as well. So have you got any data, are there any considerations of the types of people that are answering these as well? Do you collect any of that?
We certainly collect, where they're from within the university in terms of their roles, in terms of that obviously professional, in terms of their psychological state at the time. We don't. We are looking at the same with that time within the year, and that itself plays a part in terms of their psychological state. I'm not sure what perhaps they could do.
So I'm seeing that there was a little drop in the academics, they seem to be a little bit more upset how what proportion of the people answered by those academics. And if they're still at the been for a long time, so maybe there's lots of other people because they can't see anything happening, they can't see any change. Over 10 years, it seems to be the same. If there was a larger, set of people, maybe it isn't all as bad as it sounds because of the types of people that are answering. You know what I mean?
Potentially, and that's why we do try to call out the differences, what groups of people are dragging the score down, what groups of people pulling the score up. At an overall level, and let's not, I mean, there are a whole bunch of people who are happy with the degree of change and the way the change is implemented at the university. So, absolutely, I think it's worthwhile calling it out. One of the things that we like to do, if we're looking at perhaps tracking this at time, is we would like to keep consistent with the time that we track, around about the same time that we track, if possible, keep consistent with the types of people, or the cohort of people that we have had across each wave. So that really in terms of a baseline score, there is only so much you can deduce from the data. What we're looking at is, what we want to see is a relatively consistent time and a cohort of people, how that changes next time. If we can shift the dial up, we're doing something right. Absolutely agree in terms of one point in time, one cohort, one data set. We can do a fair bit, but we can't. There are some things that we sort of, I guess, can't build into that process. But what we're really looking at is, how can we shift the dial with that similar sort of approach next time?
I think Penny, you were next.
So, thank you. So leading on from that, and I'd also like to thank you because we've had a previous conversation and you kindly broke out some of the academic data for us, so that's been very helpful. But one thing I will share is when we broke out the academic data, it actually feeds into both of your issues, that the two things that scored the lowest were learnings from past change projects are used to inform planning for future changes, and the other one was around RMIT takes the emotional impact of internal change on employees into account, which would probably lead into both things, but I think it would highlight for me that they're two things that we can certainly take action on, and even if we do say that this group may be skewed towards people who maybe were a little bit more unhappy, it still gives us fairly clear direction about what we can do to address that. And that by visibly doing things like sharing learnings from past changes, so being involved in the projects that I'm on, I'd certainly reflect that we don't always learn from our past projects, and we certainly, if we do, we wouldn't share that with the people who are impacted. That tends to be a backroom activity, and I certainly think that at times we could certainly do a lot to improve the way that we help people emotionally through the change process. So I would say, even if it is a skewed sample, it would certainly be consistent with what I've seen in practice.
And absolutely, we come across this time and time again in terms of different industries as well. That a lot of work goes into how effective we are in effectively implementing change or resolving issues or being responsive. We would say that an equal amount needs to go into communicating that back to our stakeholders, whether that be customers, whether that be staff. So much of that gets lost in if we don't communicate that back.
Ross, I think you have a question.
I'm loud enough. If anyone can't hear me, I'll give that a go. First of all, thanks again. I think they're really comprehensive. I find when we have data that we can pull by different stakeholder groups, it's great to it's great to kind of identify maybe top performers within those stakeholder groups. So going back to the slide where you had the different tenures and maybe the satisfaction ratings between those tenures, I saw that Vietnam had a higher satisfaction. Do we have any data underpinning that? I suppose maybe what areas of those 6 sort of priorities they performed better in, and maybe we could leverage what they have been doing in those 6 areas.
We haven't. We can do that. We can absolutely go into a bit of detail in terms of the sample size. I think.
Yeah, I think we did break out a Vietnam specific report as well.
Yeah.
A subset on academics in Vietnam.
It'd be great to know what Vietnam specifically scored better on and be able to maybe leverage some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that also taking into account the fact that they work in a different operating environment, being a smaller cohort rather than here in campus. Obviously, there's a lot of potentially external factors that may drive that as well. What we also do know, it's probably important to note, is that there are differences in terms of how people will respond in different countries. So Southeast Asia, China, more typically, more likely to answer slightly more positive than some Western countries. So, but as baseline, obviously it stands, but we can absolutely share that with you.
Yeah, just to add to that, yeah, we do have results split out, and in terms of the drivers overall, that's just pulled with the Australian sample, given the sample size. So in terms of priority, you set those buckets, it's the same as the results on how they perform on each of them, which is higher across the board, but in terms of mid-score, still quite low. We'll share those with you.
Okay, I've got one last question. Thank you.
And in our matrix platform, we got a score 4.5.
Yep.
I'm wondering if other higher education institutions how have they experienced change? Is it made better than what we're doing?
We, in terms of change management at university, we don't have data to compare. We do have anecdotal data from staff, both within the work that we've done and across other universities, that it varies dramatically from institution to institution. I do, however, suspect that the issue that Sandra mentioned around some very positive experiences around very specific projects and some very negative ones with other projects, that occurs throughout every university because of the sheer scale and size of the organisations.
Okay. Well, all right. Is there any further questions to this issue?
I'm just curious as to whether there was an inquiry into what the definition of change is for that individual who's responding, whether it be a BAU change of, say, moving, their role being redesigned, and then all of a sudden having to perform in that role the next day, or whether it actually be a project and they know it's a project and they're commenting from that perspective.
Yep. In the questionnaire, from my memory, we didn't have a very specific definition, but we can.
Split out like the example, so it could encompass people change or your structure or building changes, so it's just like that.
Yeah.
Or they will ask people to nominate, did they have a specific event or circumstance in mind when they were answering questions? We did ask that.
Yeah, and the way that the questionnaire was worded was to keep it broad. We wanted to get people's general perceptions of how change is managed. So obviously people will have some that they'll be talking from their own experience, so that will incorporate the change that
Okay. Well, I'd like to wrap up. I'd just like to sort of summarise with a couple of points, and that is to say that I think we're making progress very much this year, and with the areas of focus and how we're sort of approaching change, we've done a lot of research through the change agility area of focus, and it's getting very consistent results with what we have here from the Project High research, which is consistent with what's been done with the communications team. So it's really good to see that we've got some very good data sets, and they're quite aligned. We're now building very much, and there'll be a change hub launched next Friday through this area of focus, and we're building some best practice and starting to iterate and learn around that. So with our change practitioners, we have a community of practice workshop meeting next week, and we do share and collaborate. So I think that together we're really starting to get the mechanisms in place across the university to build and learn and grow on what we're learning with this. So I do think we're making very positive steps going forward. Thank you very much for your time today and your attention. And if anyone wants access to these reports, we will make them available through a shared link through the invitation. So thank you again for your time and your questions, and wish you all the best.